My first day was a long monologue debrief to the whole regular cast, and it's a bit nerve wracking coming onto a show that has been established. They're a family, they're a tight knit group, and so that was very nerve wracking. But to see how welcoming they were and how much they sort of rallied around me that day was an indication of things to come, and it was a real it was just a sigh of relief and an indicator that this was going to be a great experience. So there's that, and then there was another day. All the days where we do the stuff in the briefing room are the best because you're in the studio. Everyone is there. That day was kind of an indication of how close we had all gotten and how much fun we could have if we or they or we get to do this more in the future. So that those two kind of really stand out.
It was actually a 5 a.m. call. I had a really heavy emotional scene, and it was with Eric Dane and Joe Dinicol. And Joe pulled me aside in between takes, and it was amazing. He basically just said, I can't tell you how much I respect you. Actors like you have the hardest job in show business, and you're just nailing it every take. To be able to come into a new set and be like the guest player, to just bring it like you are. He's like, you're just doing such a good job. And I just like, thank you, Joe. That meant the world to me. It really made my day. Sometimes it is crazy when you have to come in with so much history and heaviness and just high emotion from the first frame and every take, and you're in that place for like hours. It can be a challenge, especially if you don't know anyone on the set because it's your first day. And I really appreciated being seen in that way and acknowledged. And that was a very memorable moment. Thank you, Joe. It meant a lot.
Well, I will say that one thing that hit me about working on set, I mean, there's lots of great memories on working on set on the show. Working with Eric, working with Jonathan Togo, Elliot Knight, Violett, Beane. The cast is fantastic, so it's really hard to pick one. But I will say something that really hit me one day I was on set. I think it was the last day for the season that I was shooting in my office, Dave Allwell's office. And it struck me that they'd already done some preparation for setting up this office. It's got pictures of me photoshopped in with some people, like I'm shaking hands, cutting ribbons, things like that, breaking ground with the shovel, all that stuff. They had that all around the office. They had plaques of Dave Allwell around the office, a library of real books, very ornate, very meticulous settings for this office. And it hit me that this was all from me. This was my office. And I've worked on lots of shows, but I don't think I've ever had a set where the entire set was designed just for me. And that really hit me. I took a video of this. I might show it at some point, of just how I was struck by this. But yeah, that was probably one of my more memorable moments, is realizing that, I was on this level where things were being done just for me, for my character.
That is, oh my gosh, it's so tough because, I mean, it's a cop-out, but I have to say that literally everything was the most memorable. From start to finish, I could not have had a better experience. From getting to know the people that I worked with over the course of 6 months and watching all of them in their element, getting to be a part of that, even in between takes, playing games, all that stuff, doing the day in the life to show the viewers just a little bit of what it's like. All of it was truly the best experience. One memory that stands out in my mind, I'll just say the first one. And that was one of the first shoot days, actually the first shoot day in the office. It was a conference room scene, which, that means there's a lot of people in there, a lot of lines, a lot of dialogue. This one in particular, it was mostly Eric who did just an incredible job with the most technical dialogue. And I just remember watching it, getting to be a part of that, and just genuinely feeling like it was a masterclass. And I felt that way about my whole time there with everybody. I learned so much from everybody. And it was just a blast to get to share that. So yeah, basically I loved it all. And every memory is my favorite.
Okay, so the two, so instead of one memorable moment, I have two memorable moments from, actually I have like a million memorable moments, but I'll narrow it down to two. The first one from the production of Countdown was day one, mainly because you're learning like an all new crew and a new cast, and you have some guest stars and action, and we were out at an abandoned prison in Palmdale, California, and it was 118 degrees on the thermometer. And if you can imagine a prison yard, well, you can imagine it because it's in the scene. It's snakes, it's the desert. It's we had to have a snake wrangler to make sure there weren't snakes getting close to the set. And then, so imagine that heat, and you're doing an action fight sequence for the first time. And Jensen's hair was longer. We had him grow his hair out because he'd been in prison for 9 months. And so he had this floppy, sweaty hair going, and he got in that dirt and fought for, I mean, we had a 12-hour day out there. So he was out in the dirt flopping and fighting for, at least 9 of the 12 hours that weren't his stunt guy. Anyway, it was very memorable. I told my our assistants, my creative executive and the director's assistant, get some new boots, break them in before the show starts because you're going to want them on that set. Don't wear shorts. Those were my two advice. And then the other most memorable day, it was during episode 11. We were shooting, we had already shot out at the gas station where the governor's press secretary gets sniped in a memorable opening sequence. But the interior of that sequence, which was where they're looking on the video to see, they see Todd for the first time on video as he goes to put something into the car, so they think. And we had about all of the regular cast and a few guest performers stuffed into a little set on our stages where we had built what that video display would look like. And Elliot is working the video, right? So the camera's on him, a close-up, as he's manipulating the video. And all of a sudden we hear this marching band start up. I didn't know what was happening. Nobody had told me. And so I was like, what the hell? Like somebody had turned on, because also that show Fallout is shooting on the stages next door. So I was like, is that something for Fallout? But our doors to our stage go open and in comes this marching band. And Jessica had for Jensen's birthday, his wife's from New Orleans, a Mardi Gras band come in, and Jensen went crazy and the crew all went nuts. There was cake, and it was just the best feeling right when we needed it. Because when you get to the 11th of 13 episodes, the 13th episode can be really exciting because it's the goodbyes to everyone. But when you're on the 11th one, it's like it still feels a long way off. So it was the perfect timing for a great uplifting event.
Can you describe your most memorable moment from working on the set of Countdown?
Playing Scrabble with the cast.
In what way has playing your role on Countdown taught you something about yourself as an actor?
Stage is different than TV.
If if the show comes back and your character gets to be a part of that, what would you most look forward to experiencing on set?
Working with Ronnie, who plays Mike Collins, and Jessica, and Elliot, and Jensen, and Elliot. Good cast. Hey, baby.
I'll say this, growing up in the theater world, as we talked about earlier, and actually at the time I got this part, I was doing a play, and in the play I had a 4-page monologue without any punctuation. It's basically supposed to be one long sentence. And so when I got this audition, I really thought, oh, this is what I've been asking for. This is what I've been looking for. I feel like I'm the guy you give all the words to. I love learning lines. I love dialogue. That's sort of one of the big joys of being an actor to me are the words. I grew up doing Shakespeare and that's always been, but it was kind of the first time I was given the ball in that way, right? To carry all the exposition. And so to get to do that, I sort of got what I was the dog that caught the car, and to find out that I really do love that I really do love, there was a couple instances after that first day where people would sort of say, oh, we'll just give you all the exposition, we'll give you all the dialogue, and I was like, yeah, great, bring it on, I love this. So it was a sort of a realization and a fulfillment of something I always thought that I would be good at, or that I could serve in that role, and it was a sort of a fulfillment of that idea. So I certainly learned that I wasn't crazy, that this is something I can do, and that I can provide that, because exposition and information is such a big part of storytelling, and it's often the part that is hard to make fun or palatable, and obviously, luckily, Derek writes very beautifully and in a really fun way, and I think Fitz is a great character because of his energy to give that information. We can find fun ways to do it, and so that challenge, to know that I really did enjoy that challenge like I thought I would, was a kind of a nice realization, I guess.
Fun story. So my manager sent me the audition for this, and this has never happened in 20 plus years of my career. I missed the email. I just didn't even see it, period. And then I get a follow-up email from her assistant on the day it was due that said, hey, by the way, they extended the deadline on this. Do you want to send a tape, or do you want to pass? And I saw it and was like, oh my gosh, I want to send a tape. So I had I think I turned it around in a couple hours, but that's not to say I didn't prep like crazy and did all the work I normally do. I just did it very quickly. And you know what it was? I trusted myself. I just jumped off the cliff. I went with instinct. I understood what this woman was going through in this moment, and I just said, I've got this. And it was that trust, that deep trust and surrender that gave me a lot of, I guess, just strength in myself. And so that's what I learned. Grateful for that surprise learning moment, but it was cool. And then I booked it. So it was like proof that, trust yourself and just jump off the cliff and go for it.
Well, that's an easy one. Actor Rachel can easily get up at 5 a.m., be on set by 6 a.m., but non-actor Rachel struggles to open her eyes before 8 a.m. But yeah, that's basically it. On a more serious note, it really just reinforced a lot of things that I already knew, and that's I love the teamwork aspect of this. I love the collaboration and people coming together and it being like a real thing. Like subtle changes will affect somebody else, like if you're really connected to it. So yeah, that's what I learned.
Well, that, funny enough, was actually my first day on set for the show. For whatever reason, we skipped past the episode 2 and went right to episode 3. And I hadn't worked with Eric before ever. I hadn't met him before. I hadn't met Jonathan Togo before. And it was my first day there. So imagine thinking this, my first scene is me just berating Eric Dane and having this real tense moment with Jonathan Togo. And that was fun for me because it gave me a chance to really kind of set the tone for my character with the other cast as far as who I am as an actor and as a person, and get to meet with them and work with them. And we all just gained this mutual respect for each other working in that scene. But we did lots of takes, lots of funny moments. Some things were improvised on the spot there between Damon and Eric. Between Jonathan and Eric and I. And it was great. It's funny how we did multiple takes with the last moment of me stepping into the elevator, and that elevator doing the dramatic door close after my last line of, your days are numbered or whatever. that was fun to get that timing right, because you want to time it to make it really dramatic, and we had great fun doing that. So that was a great time. That, again, my first time working on the show, on the set with Eric Dane and John Togo, and it was a blast. We started rehearsal for that scene, and I actually improvised a little bit off script and we were joking around just in the rehearsal, and that again kind of got us closer together, just doing things like that. So it was a great experience.
I mean, my hopes start with being a part of it, obviously. I mean, I think that's, maybe goes without saying. But there's a lot of moving pieces to these things, and who knows? I would say my hopes are kind of endless. I think, the great thing about a TV show is you get to, hopefully over the course of a long enough period of time, you get to see people in all manner of situations. I'd love to see Fitz try and do an undercover mission. I think that would be a hilarious time. Or an interrogation. Sort of all the sort of fish out of water stuff that for him would be fun to see him succeed or fail. I think what's great about all the characters is they're so well defined that it's very satisfying to see them thrive or not so much in kind of any situation. And so to keep pairing them up in different ways or keep putting them in situations they're not used to it's just endlessly fun, and there's endless possibilities. But I think sort of seeing him as a fish out of water, I think interrogation scene and undercover would be fun to play and fun to see.
So I've had the privilege of being on, sets where there've been multiple episodes where you just start to feel like a family, and everyone's name and the whole cast and crew. There's like this gel that happens, and it really feels like a family. So I would be so lucky to be called back for Countdown and to experience that again, because it really is special. And to be honest, I felt that family experience even in the short time I was on the show. So I know that would be what would happen. It would be even richer and deeper than my short time on the show. But I would love to experience that with everyone who is so wonderful to work with.
It's a good one. I would say, so, we don't know that much about Heather. We know that she's smart. We know she's capable. She's professional. She's trustworthy. Blythe trusts her. How did she gain that trust? Is that trust misplaced? I don't know. I didn't say it. I'm just saying, who is she? I have my theories, but I'd like to explore that a little more. So we will see.